TAP Air Portugal isn't just another airline with delays. This one takes chaos to another level. While the company is stuck in yet another messy privatization saga, they're at the same time buying shiny new planes and trying to win back frustrated passengers. I've had my fair share of bad experiences with them, but today we'll see if anything has really changed on this flight with TAP Air Portugal. It isn't a secret that the Portuguese flag carrier is in kind of a mess right now. The current privatization attempt isn't going according to plan and has already been delayed several times. Why current attempt, you may ask? Because this isn't the first time, not even the second, but actually the third time in TAP's history that the airline has been shifted from public to private ownership and back again. At this point, even their own staff are left wondering what's going on. And while TAP has invested heavily in a new fleet, a fresher image and some pretty decent fares, I can't help but suspect that all the chaos is the reason so many travelers describe their experience as mediocre, to put it lightly. In my personal experience though, the flights with TAP were never mediocre, because they were absolutely miserable. Out of the 4 times I've flown with TAP, not a single flight arrived with less than an hour's delay, and one time they even lost my bags for several days. At least the transit experience and the customer support of TAP was always something to dream about, if that dream is about you being sent back and forth between unhelpful corporate puppets until you're more frustrated than a 55-year-old cat lady with blue hair. But please, dear ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, don't get me wrong here. I really like Portugal as a country, still I've always urged my friends not to fly TAP. However, going against my own advice has basically become the main theme of this channel, so here I am, doing something that every relationship counselor would probably slap me in the face for, giving them a 5th chance. The day starts on a gloomy August morning in Lisbon. As the capital of Portugal, this city of about 500,000 people hosts the country's busiest airport, which also serves as the hub of TAP. On the way to the airport, my passenger princess and I drop off our rented panel van that we used to travel around in Portugal, which was amazing by the way. Apart from the one time we almost got trapped in a hippie cult, we discovered some truly stunning parts of the country's landscape, history and culture, and I can honestly recommend a visit to Portugal. And we rented our van for about $100 a day from a family-operated business called Road Campers. This isn't sponsored or anything, they're just generally cool people. Anyway, after handing back the van, we hop into a taxi heading for Terminal 1. So nu is op een weg van Vlughaven. Campervan hebben we glad opgekeerd. Ik hoop dat ze richting de terminals gaat. En ja, dan vliegen we de vliegtuig terug naar rechts uit, dat vliegen we niet mee. With some doubts still in my head, we approach Terminal 1 of Humberto Delgado Airport and head straight to the departure hall. Here, TAP offers a fully automated check-in process, which honestly is the perfect alternative to talking to a human, at least for socially awkward individuals like me. While standing in front of what kind of reminds me of a slot machine, muscle memory kicks in, but instead of a few free spins, I get our ticket for the flight. All in all, the check-in process is surprisingly smooth, no waiting times at all, and after just a few minutes we're ready to go. But hold on, wait a minute, what about bags? Well, bags aren't included in the basic fare, but since we like to waste money we don't have, we booked a 23 kg bag in advance for a reasonable price of €40. Hoping the bag doesn't get lost again, I feed it into this robot thing, which once more makes me realize that the future is now, and it will be just a question of time until all of us are unemployed and the world is controlled by computers. After security control, we're greeted by a fancy duty-free area. Half of our travel group, which consists of my wife and me, is interested in buying overpriced makeup. The other half is not. In the end, my wife convinces me that I can also look at makeup at home and that I don't need a Sephora lipstick to look good anyway. So I bury my plans of becoming a beauty YouTuber and we head to the cramped lounge to grab some soggy sandwiches before making our way to the gate. What's green and red? Well, if it's green first and turns red at the touch of a button, it's a frog in a blender. But if it's green and red at the same time and arranged in the letters T, A and P, it's a Portuguese flag carrier waiting at the gate for us. Boarding is actually on time, which is a first for me with this airline. Turns out though, the plane sitting there isn't ours, because first we have to take the buff, as Mike Tyson would say, and head to the remote parking spot of our plane. Here we are. Apart from carrying a stunning retro livery, this plane is famous for once being grounded after 132 live hamsters escaped the cargo hold and ended up running around the cabin. While I enjoy the livery from the outside, the guy working on the tarmac clearly doesn't, as he unmistakably lets me know that recording the plane is not appreciated. So I do what I do best, I apologize and do it anyway. However, it's the inside that counts, and I'm not disappointed as I'm greeted by a sleek, hamster-free cabin. It looks fresh and shiny, and it still has that new plane smell, which I'd honestly love to bottle up and use as a perfume. I know I'm a bit weird. While I like old planes, I do appreciate when an airline invests in its fleet and brings in new aircraft, and that's something TAP has actually done pretty well in recent years. The airline has brought down its average fleet age to below 10 years, not least thanks to its role as a launch customer for the A330neo. But they've also ordered plenty of new A320neos and A321neos, and now, with the exception of its subsidiary TAP Express, they operate an all-Airbus fleet. Moreover, they haven't had a fatal incident in almost 5 decades, so at least from a safety perspective, they're generally seen as a highly reliable carrier, ranked by airlineratings.com among the top 25 safest in the world. However, the safer they are in the sky, the more they seem to lack elsewhere. Service and punctuality are where things really fall apart. Flight Stats gives them a delay rating of 0.7 out of 5, and on Trustpilot they crawl along at 1.5 stars, mostly thanks to delays, lost bags and the talent for mishandling customers. Out of the 4 flights I've personally taken with them, every single one arrived more than an hour late, some of them way more. And while today's boarding looked promising at first, by the time we finally reached the runway, we are already running 50 minutes behind schedule. Still, I'd rather arrive late than never, and luckily we're not in a rush, so let's sit back, watch the takeoff and take in the stunning view of Lisbon. There's no Wi-Fi, no charging port and no onboard magazine apart from the duty-free catalog and the paid food menu, so instead of doing nothing, I just pretend to read, trying to look a little more sophisticated than I actually am. I'm not entirely sure, but I think apart from the colors, it's the same seat design Wizz Air uses. The seats don't recline, though that might be because we're in 36A and B, the very last row. For a short hop that's fine, but the thought that TAP also sends these A320neos across the big pond, that's a whole different story. Still, everything looks modern, clean and well put together. And if you consider the sometimes very low fares, it's hard to complain. You don't get much more than on a low-cost carrier, but you're also not paying much more either. So whether they call themselves a full-service carrier running low-cost strategies or a low-cost carrier pretending to be a full-service, that's tomato, same thing. And while the hard product feels fair for the price, the soft product is also pretty much on the same level as your average low-cost carrier. Surely that's part of a broader trend across European aviation. Flying on this continent isn't the glamour show it once was, but you're also not paying $5,000 anymore for a ticket. Still, the tiny piece of chocolate was the only complimentary refreshment on this flight. On a short hop that's fine, but when you think about it, that little square of chocolate is basically the only thing separating TAP from a low-cost carrier. Also, the crew seemed a bit on edge, but maybe if I worked for a company going through endless restructuring and privatization, I wouldn't feel that motivated either. But maybe this goes deeper. On holidays in Portugal, I've noticed something. People are incredibly kind and fun as long as you meet them in private life or family businesses, but the moment they wear a company badge, it flips. Obviously, that's something you find everywhere in the world, but in Portugal, the gap feels especially striking. And honestly, I've noticed the same thing in other southern European countries too, like Italy or across the Balkans. But who am I to judge?
Check in. Check in. No, because you said it completely wrong. You have a flight. We will see. Vanno in vacanza vestiti così. Passaporto.
Now the next part of the journey got rather boring, and I never really know what to comment on here because, well, usually nothing is happening during the middle of the flight, so I'll just say something to fill the silence. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Judging by the dry, desert-like landscapes outside the window, it's clear we've left the European continent and... wait, Spain? Yeah, we're on the way to Madrid. From Lisbon, it's just about an hour and 20 minutes, and this flight does the job just fine. Sure, we could have taken Ryanair for a third of the price and ended up with pretty much the same experience, but for me this was still a step up from my previous flights with TAP. Whether that's because they've actually improved or just because I got lucky this time is hard to say from a single snapshot. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to be nice, but I do walk away with a slightly better impression of TAP than I had before. If I spot good fares again, I'd be willing to give them another shot, but as my life shows, things usually get worse, so check out my 30-hour nightmare on China Eastern. Thanks for watching and see you next time.